Good afternoon and welcome back to another ironic introduction to another video. Today I have variant 3.3.2 exploration guide. As always, there will be timestamps for every path in the description below, as well as a timestamp for the Kang boss as well. That said, if you have been using Ghost to get through all of variant 3, I have some bad news. What is by far the easiest path here is not Ghost friendly. So you need to properly bring a non-Ghost champion to this path in order to do, but in my opinion this last path here is probably the easiest one. There are some others here that, like, depending on your roster and what you're looking at, could be easier. So as always, make sure you go through all of the paths and see which one looks like the easiest to you, but personally I think for a lot of people that last path is gonna be one of the easier ones, at least for the most part. You could make a strong argument for like maybe path 2 or maybe path 3, but hopefully you'll make that decision on your own. That said, diving into path 1, here we have recharge, defensive, all or nothing, and power shield. So recharge means that when either champion is holding block, they're generating power, and they cannot gain power through any other means. Defensive, this is a champion that's going to be holding block a lot more, which is proper frustrating. All or nothing, which means they're going to be throwing pretty much only special 3s, and power shield, where you get a lot more extra damage out of specials. So here in this path, your best friends are going to be Taunt, Power Control, and Ghost with Hood Synergy. So if you were listening earlier and you were like, oh, he's got bad news for Ghost players, if you are using Ghost, this is the path you're going to want to take. This is the one I took. For non-Ghost players, the other path personally I think is going to be easier for you. That said, this Night Thrasher is a relatively free fight. Both specials are dexable. It takes a little bit of time to get used to, but overall it's fairly free. Kingpin, you're going to want to dex the special 1 if at all possible, and again, remember, this is all under the assumption you're bringing Taunt or some form of power control. Otherwise, you can just pummel into these guys and just bait through it with like Hood Synergy with Ghost. Ghost Rider is a free fight as long as you're bringing something to respond to the nodes. Gamor is a free fight as long as you're bringing something to respond to the nodes. Human Torch, like, again, I think the most common taunt is Stark Enhanced Spider-Man. If you can't dex it, just block it, but Stark Enhanced will do the rest of the work for you there as well. Proxima Midnight, same thing. If you can't dex it, just block it, but both Human Torch and Proxima Midnight have dexable specials, so you should be able to push through fairly easy. Captain America Infinity War, these are full physical specials and fairly easy to dodge. So this path, the champions on this path aren't particularly tricky, except for maybe like the Kingpin, where you don't, you gotta be careful of the unstoppable heavy attacks. And what makes these paths hard is really like you gotta have like Stark Enhanced Spider-Man or Ghost, or you gotta bring a non-tech champion to really respond. There are other champions that can like properly power control, like Vision did some work for me, or you also have other champions like Warlock, who has like a fairly reasonable power control, or Guillotine 2099, who can kind of power control. But honestly, Ghost and Stark Enhanced are like really your best friends on that path. Next up, we have path 2, which is Explosive Personality. The way you work around Explosive Personality is you don't hit into their blocks unless you're using Namor. And Namor is actually like a really good way to cheese through this, just because you can comfortably hit into their blocks and reflect that explosive damage upon the defender instead. This Civil War is a free fight for the most part. This Unstoppable Colossus, as long as you work around the unstoppable timings, is a free fight. Howard the Duck, bait the special 1, have a good time. You can also take the special 2. It's just going to be quite a bit of block damage. Iron Man Infinity War is one of the more tricky fights, and this is one of the reasons why I don't call this the easy path, is because it is tricky, like with Explosive Personality and Iron Man Infinity War having that auto block, where you might accidentally trigger Explosive Personality and just get totally memed, not to mention like a lot of power gain once you push him into that last 15%, but as long as you're doing like a lot of reparries, heavy counters, or armor breaks as Iron Man Infinity War, he's not too bad. You might even want to bring like specifically an Iron Man Infinity War counter for this fight, and then also ideally that counter would be good for Killmonger as well. So if you're using like maybe Corvus Glaive or Medusa, or any kind of like guaranteed armor break, that'll help you out a lot here. Because Killmonger, you need to either armor break to avoid the reverberation damage or like time out the reverberation phase. Otherwise, you're just taking thorns. Either way, it's not a good time. Namor works here as well. And then finally, we have War Machine. This is fun block damage on the special 1. The special 2 is full dodgeable if you can push him to it. Otherwise, do be careful for that chip. And then Emma Frost, who additionally has aggressive armor and debilitate. So the key to this Emma Frost fight is reparry, as well as inverted controls on specials for when you're dodging those. Otherwise, it's a relatively easy fight once you can get into the mantra of reparry, punish heavy. For path 3, we start off with the node long distance relationship, and the way you want to work around this node is essentially periodically you're just going to want to distance yourself from the defender to drop the weaknesses, because eventually the weaknesses will stack up. Like 1 or 2 weaknesses, you don't feel the damage drop off too much, but once you're sitting on somewhere like 3 to 4 to 5 weakness debuffs, you're not going to be doing any damage. You're going to want to distance yourself from the defender and let those weakness debuffs fall off. Taskmaster, his special 1 is full dexable and his special 2 is physical, so he's a fairly free fight. Void, the thing you got to remember is every 10 hits you will automatically shrug one of the debuffs Void places on you, so as long as you're not like running in there with suicide masteries, or you're bringing like someone who's double immune like Ghost or a robot or something, then all you have to do is worry about dropping Void's debuffs when they trigger. Just make sure you really get the most out of your parry stun timers, heavies, and short combos to alternate it to get to a 10-hit combo when you're about to get the Void debuff, and you can shrug it immediately, not taking any damage. Yondu, bleed immunes work the best here, so you don't have to think about the fight too much, but if you're not bringing a bleed immune, the way to like think about Yondu is it's the same as Domino. You just want to do long range dash attacks are the ones that you want to parry. So you don't want to be parrying Yondu up close. Stick to your 4-hit combos, dash back, and then you can parry if he dashes at you. But yeah, those close range attacks, those ones will bleed you even through the block, and it's not a good time. Green Goblin, you have to watch out for the chip damage on the special 1, and the special 2 will obliterate you if you don't properly dex it or block it. So if you are not confident in your ability to block it, you're not confident in your ability to dex it, just block it. Yeah, it's a lot of block damage, but it's safer to block than it is to end up getting destroyed, or just get really comfortable dexing, because it's not too bad once you get the handle on it. If you don't have an anti-heal for this fight, he's tankier than he appears, just be mindful, but overall not that bad. Miles Morales, the special 1 is the tricky one where he shoots like 3 webs at you, so if you're not like properly far away, it's hard to dodge those, so you might take some block damage here, but you can always dodge the bunches at the very least. The special 2 is free to dodge, so if at all possible, push him into a special 2. Omega Red, robots are going to be like your best friends for this Omega Red. If not, just make sure that you are baiting special 1s and you don't let your spore count ever hit 10. Additionally, this guy's got aggression, fury, and aggressive, so maintaining that distance to drop spores as well as drop the weakness debuffs from long distance relationship is going to be fairly tricky. So that's again why I say you're really going to want a robot for that fight. And we're already here to path 4. So path 4 starts off with Vulture. Now the thing to remember about Vulture is when he has 50 Chitauri energy, if he dashes back and immediately dashes in and you block, the next attack you have against Vulture will auto miss. So if you're ever fighting him and you're wondering, hey, why am I auto missing? That's the reason. But the nodes on this path are Enhanced Armor Break, Enhanced Armor Up, and Crumbling Armor. So again, if you're running Ghost, it is very possible to do this path with Ghost. Just make sure that you're playing properly aggressive or recognizing when you get that armor break on you so that you're not relying on phase. I still used Ghost for this path. It wasn't a problem as long as you're staying proper aggressive. Next up is the Black Panther's Civil War. This is a intercept for the win kind of a fight, or make sure that you keep Black Panther Civil War's armor ups non-existent so that you don't have to worry about the stun reflect. And after that, it's a fairly simple fight. Heimdall, bait special 1s for the win. Hulkbuster, bait special 1s for the win. Angela, bait special 1s for the win, but you can dodge her special 2 as long as you get enough distance to dodge the projectile throw. Overall, one of the easier fights as well. Havoc, you're going to want to think about the fact that he does have an additional power gain node, improved power gain, so he is going to be gaining power a little bit faster than you're used to just passively. You're going to want to bring like a power drain champion here to keep him constantly losing his charges, or you're going to want to use like Ghost with Hood synergy or a champion with armor up. Now do be mindful, if you're using a champion with an armor up, you need to stay proper aggressive here so that Crumbling Armor doesn't cause you to lose your armor and then you take a bunch of explosion damage from Havoc as a result. But honestly, that Havoc's not too bad as long as you stay aggressive, and he throws his specials fairly frequently, so you don't have to worry too much about that. Finally, for Path 5, we have Combo Party. Now, for every 10 hits on your combo, the attacker gains a permanent cruelty buff, granting plus 500% crit damage rating. When struck, the attacker loses all cruelty buffs, and if their combo meter is lost, they take 40% of the defender's attack as direct damage for each cruelty buff lost this way. So the reason I say this is the easiest path is as long as you're playing perfect, you are just cruising through this path with so much free damage. It's really nice, and the champions on it aren't too bad. So Venom is bait special 1 for a good time. The special 2 is available. Just be mindful of the like awkward timing on it and try to get your distance if possible. Venom the Duck, bait the special 1, live a good life. The special 2 is dodgeable as well, but make sure you get that max distance before you dex the balls he throws at you. Magic, Warlock is particularly good here because of his defensive ability accuracy reduction. Otherwise, just make sure you watch out for limbo damage. You can bait special 1s to make sure that you never push her into a special 2 because she has a significantly higher chance to proc limbo when she hits a second bar of power as opposed to the first bar of power. Additionally, you can use a pacify mastery and parry here to help prevent limbo, so that you're not just taking that passive degen damage, but overall not that bad of a fight. Scarlet Witch, I recommend you bring a poison immune champion to this fight. Otherwise, you're just reliant on getting lucky and not getting poisoned, but that's fine. That's a viable strategy as well. Not too bad. Mysterio, just be mindful that whenever he throws a special 1, you have to worry about timing out the reflection phase, and whenever he throws a special 2, you have to worry about timing out the miss phase. But after both of those, it's a fairly free fight after that. Ebony Maw, key factor here is no ghost. Like, dead serious, no ghost. As long as you're not using ghost, you can just use standard reparries, and you can use heavies to break his focus. Watch out for that falter phase that triggers every 20 focus charges for Ebony Maw. But as long as you're throwing a heavy here or there, you can break his focus. You don't have to worry too much about the falter. Then last on this path is Mr. Sinister. Normally Ghost is like an okay option for Mr. Sinister, but he does have recovery node in addition to special 1 bias, so the healing is a little bit stronger every time you crit. It's actually over healing for the crits, so you don't really want to use Ghost. If possible, bring someone else. Ghost can still do it, it's just not a proper good time in my opinion. Overall though, as long as you have like a proper answer for Mr. Sinister, it's not too bad. Plenty of champions can cruise through that. You know, Sentinel does okay, Warlock does okay, Mysterio does well as well. I think Guillotine 2099 is a really good option here. So for the most part, you're just going to have to punch your way through that Mr. Sinister, and then just remember that if you are throwing damage over time debuffs on him, he will reflect those back onto you after he special 1s, so try to time your damage over time effects outside of those windows. And then finally, we got the big bad Kang boss. Now Kang boss here has selective Timestream, picture of health, and enhanced special 1 and enhanced special 2. Now, you're going to be baiting the special 1 for the most part anyways. It's a free dodge, so don't worry too much about the enhanced specials. The picture of health means that he's immune to regenerate modifications, which means you can't meme a heal reversal on this champ. Because every 20 seconds, Kang will instantly restore to full health, and any debuffs on him will be removed. And this cannot be prevented with ability accuracy reduction. And you also won't be able to like heal block him, etc. As you know, as per the picture of health node. The only thing to note is that Mysterio and Warlock's, both their passive heal blocks still work on Kang. Additionally, Shock and Incinerate immunes will prevent the heal from triggering. So if you have a good Shock or a good Incinerate champion, bring them for this Kang. And don't be afraid to bring a specific counter for this fight. It doesn't need to be a tech. Now, you don't have a good Shock or Incinerate champion. Let's say like maybe you're using only Ghost, or you know, you're using Guillotine 2099 or something along those lines. Any champ can take this Kang down as long as you quit out of the fight before he full heals. So around 18-19 seconds, you just pause, quit, and then he will stay at the amount of health that you did to him. Yes, it's going to cost you some revives, it's going to hurt, but if you're looking for that initial completion especially, you don't need a direct counter for this Kang. I know I memed him with Ghost and some revives, so those are your options as well. That said, that is variant 3.3.2 exploration. All of variant 3 exploration is there. I hope that you guys make that push sometime soon, and I'll talk to you all later. Peace.